Torak opened his eyes slowly. The lights above him were too bright, and his head felt like it was filled with rocks. He blinked several times, trying to remember where he was and what had happened. Then he saw her face. Yuna was kneeling beside him, watching him with calm eyes. There was no pride in her expression, no gloating, no satisfaction. She looked at him the way a teacher might look at a student who had just learned a difficult lesson. "How do you feel?" she asked. Torak tried to speak, but his jaw hurt. He touched it carefully with one massive hand. It was not broken, but it would be sore for days. "I feel—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Surprised." Yuna smiled slightly. That seems to be a common reaction when people fight humans for the first time. Around them, the stadium was still buzzing with noise. Delegates talked and argued and gestured wildly. Many were pointing at the ring, at the small human woman and the fallen Velen warrior. The universe had shifted in the last few minutes, and everyone was still trying to understand how medical workers rushed onto the ring. They were from different species, each carrying their own healing tools. One of them, a small creature with 6 arms, tried to push Yuna aside. "Please move," it said. "We must examine the Velen delegate." Torak raised his hand. "No, leave us." The medical worker looked confused. "But sir, you are injured. I need nothing." Torak pushed himself up into a sitting position. His body ached everywhere, but he ignored the pain. "Leave us alone. The human and I have things to discuss." The medical workers looked at each other uncertainly, but they backed away. The council leader started to speak, but one of its assistants whispered something in its ear. The leader nodded and stayed silent. Torak and Yuna were left alone in the center of the ring, surrounded by thousands of watching eyes. "Help me stand," Torak said. Yuna stood up and offered both her hands. Torak took them. His hands were so big that they swallowed hers completely. With a grunt of effort, he pulled himself to his feet. He swayed for a moment, then found his balance. They stood facing each other. The massive alien warrior and the small human woman. The creature of strength and the creature of will. "I've been a warrior for 40 years, Torak said slowly. His voice was rough, but steady. "I have fought enemies across 100 worlds. I have won battles that were supposed to be impossible. And in all that time, I have never faced anything like you." Yuna said nothing. She just listened. "You should not have been able to do what you did," Torak continued. "Every rule I know about combat says it should have been impossible. You are smaller than me, weaker than me, slower than me, at least in raw speed. But you beat me, and now I need to know why." Yuna took a deep breath. "Do you really want to understand? Or do you just want an excuse for why you lost?" Torak's eyes narrowed. For a moment, anger flickered across his face. Then it faded, replaced by something more thoughtful. "I want to understand," he said. "Truly." Yuna nodded. She turned to face the crowd, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The Velen Empire is built on strength," she said. "You are powerful beings. Your bodies are like weapons. You have conquered many worlds because nobody could stand against you in battle." Torak nodded slowly. "But humans are different," Yuna continued. "We evolved on a planet where we were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. If we had tried to compete with other animals through pure strength, we would have died long ago." She held up her scarred arms. "So we learned to be clever. We learned to use tools. We learned to plan and strategize. We learned to work together. And most importantly, we learned to never give up." The stadium was completely silent now. Every delegate was listening. "On Earth, there's a type of hunting called persistence hunting. Our ancestors used it to catch animals much faster than themselves. They could not outrun their prey, in a short race. But they could follow it for hours, for days, walking and jogging without rest. And eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion, and the humans would catch it. Yuna turned back to Torek. That is what humans are. We are not the fastest or the strongest, but we are the most persistent. We will keep coming. We will keep fighting. We will keep standing up no matter how many times we are knocked down. And in the end, we will win. Not because we are better than our enemies, but because we refuse to lose. Torek was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He bowed. It was not a small bow. He bent at the waist, lowering his massive head until it was below Yuna's. It was a gesture of deep respect, one that Velans rarely gave to anyone. I was wrong about humans, he said. I thought you were weak because your bodies are soft. But I see now that your strength comes from somewhere else. From inside. He straightened up and looked at the council leader. I, Torek of the Velan Empire, officially support Earth's membership in the Galactic Alliance. The humans have proven themselves warriors of the highest order. They would make valuable allies. The stadium erupted again. Some delegates cheered. Others shouted questions. The noise was overwhelming. Day rushed down from the stands and ran to Yuna's side. His face was a mix of joy and relief. You did it, he said, grabbing her shoulders. I cannot believe you did it. Yuna smiled, but she looked tired. The fight had taken everything she had. I just showed them the truth, she said. That is all. The council leader finally spoke, its voice cutting through the noise. The council will take Delegate Torak's recommendation under serious consideration. But first, I must ask Ambassador Yuna a question. Yuna looked up at the platform. Yes, council leader? When you first came here, you said that humans protect themselves, that you need no protection from others. But surely, even humans have limits. Surely there are threats that even you cannot face alone. Yuna smiled. It was the first real smile she had shown since the fight began. You are right, council leader. There are threats we cannot face alone. But that is why we want to join the alliance. Not because we need protection, but because we want to stand beside you. We want to share our strength with yours. We want to face the dangers of the universe together. She looked around the stadium at all the different faces, all the different species. Humans do not ask to be protected, but we are always ready to protect others. That is who we are. That is what we offer. And if you accept us as partners, we will never let you down. The cheering started again, louder than ever. And standing in the center of it all, small and scarred and human, Yuna finally let herself relax. She had done what she came to do. She had shown the galaxy what humans really were. Not fragile creatures who needed saving, but survivors, fighters, and friends worth having. The universe would never look at humanity the same way again. Torek came at her like a storm. He was not holding back anymore. Every punch, every kick, every swing of his massive arms was meant to end the fight. The air cracked with the force of his attacks. Yuna moved through the storm like she was made of wind. She ducked and weaved, stepped and spun. Her feet barely seemed to touch the ground. Every attack missed her by inches, sometimes less. But she was not just dodging anymore. She was striking back. Her fist hit Torek's throat. It was a quick jab, almost too fast to see. Torek coughed and stumbled back. Before he could recover, she was already moving again. Her elbow caught him in the side of his knee. Her palm slammed into his ear. Each strike was small. Against his massive body, they seemed like nothing. But they were not nothing. They were aimed at the weak points, the soft places that even Velan armor could not protect. And they were adding up. The crowd watched in complete silence. They had never seen anything like this. The tiny human was not winning through power. She was winning through skill, through speed, through intelligence. She was taking apart the Velen warrior piece by piece. Torak swung his arm in a wide arc. Yuna jumped. She actually jumped over his arm, her body twisting in the air like an acrobat. As she passed over him, her heel came down on the back of his neck. Torak fell to one knee. The crowd exploded. Aliens shouted in languages from 100 different worlds. Some were cheering. Others were screaming in disbelief. Day sat frozen in his seat, his mouth hanging open. Torak pushed himself back up. He was breathing hard now. His movements were slower. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead where Yuna had struck him earlier. How? He gasped. How are you doing this? Yuna circled him slowly. Her own breathing was controlled and steady. She was tired, yes. Her muscles burned and her hands ached from hitting his stone-like body. But she had trained for moments like this. She had trained to fight through pain and exhaustion. On Earth, she said, we have many fighting styles. Hundreds of them. They were developed over thousands of years. Each one teaches different ways to use the body as a weapon. She struck again. Her fingers jabbed into a pressure point on his arm. Torak's right hand went numb for a moment, unable to make a fist. Some styles use speed, she continued. Some use leverage. Some use the enemy's strength against them. She spun and kicked low, sweeping his leg. Torak stumbled, but kept his balance. Barely. I have studied 12 different styles, Yuna said. I have trained in them since I was a child. My body knows moves that my mind does not even have to think about. Torak roared and charged at her. This time, he was not trying to punch or grab. He was trying to crush her with his whole body, to use his massive weight to pin her to the ground. Yuna stood still. She watched him come. At the last moment, she dropped to the ground and rolled. Torak passed over her, unable to stop. She came up behind him and jumped onto his back. Her arm wrapped around his thick neck. Her legs locked around his body. She squeezed Dot. It was a chokehold, one of the oldest techniques in human fighting. It did not require strength. It used the body's own weakness against itself. Even the strongest creature needed blood to flow to its brain. Torak thrashed and fought. He tried to grab her, but she was behind him, out of reach. He tried to slam himself against the wall of the ring, but she moved with him, adjusting her position. He tried to fall backward to crush her beneath him, but she released just in time and rolled away. He fell on his back, gasping. The chokehold had only lasted a few seconds, but it had weakened him further. Yuna stood up. She was sweating now, her black shirt sticking to her body. There was a bruise forming on her shoulder, where Torak had grazed her with one of his swings. But she was still standing. Torak lay on the ground, staring up at the lights. His chest heaved with each breath. "Get up," Yuna said. He turned his head to look at her. There was no anger in his eyes anymore. There was only exhaustion and something that might have been respect. "Why?" he asked. "You have proven your point. You are stronger than you look. Smarter than I thought. Why continue?" Yuna walked over to him and stood looking down at his massive form. "Because this is not about proving a point," she said. "This is about helping you understand. You asked why humans need no protection. I could tell you 1,000 stories about human strength. I could show you records of what we have survived. But you would not truly understand until you felt it yourself." She offered him her hand. Torak stared at it. Her hand was so small compared to his. It was covered in new cuts and bruises from striking his body. But it was steady. It did not shake. "You are asking me to continue?" he said. "Even though you are winning? I am asking you to get up. Because that is what humans do. We get up. No matter how many times we fall, no matter how much pain we feel, we get up and we keep fighting. Torak was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly he reached up and took her hand. His grip could have crushed her bones if he wanted. But instead, he let her help pull him to his feet. They stood facing each other in the ring. The crowd was completely quiet again. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. Torak looked at Yuna. He looked at her scarred arms, her bruised hands, her calm eyes. And something changed in his expression. "One more exchange," he said. "Give me everything you have. Hold nothing back. And I will do the same." Yuna nodded. Agreed. They both stepped back. They both raised their guard. The council leader watched from above, too shocked to interfere. Torak moved first. He threw his strongest punch, putting all his remaining power into it. It was fast and devastating, the kind of blow that could break walls. But Yuna was already inside his guard. She moved under the punch, her body flowing like water. Her elbow struck his jaw from below. Her knee drove into his stomach. And then, with all her strength, she brought her fist up in an uppercut that caught him perfectly on the chin. Torak's head snapped back. His eyes rolled. His massive body swayed once, twice, and then crashed to the ground like a falling mountain. He did not get up. The silence lasted for 3 full seconds. Then the stadium erupted with the loudest noise Yuna had ever heard. But she did not celebrate. She walked over to where Torak lay, knelt beside him, and waited for him to wake up, because victory was not the point. Understanding was. The demonstration ring was bright under white lights. Yuna walked across the smooth stone floor, feeling every eye in the stadium on her. The seats above were full now. Thousands of aliens watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen. Torak stood on the other side of the ring. He had removed his formal robes and wore only a simple training cloth around his waist. His body was massive. Muscles covered every part of him like armor. His gray skin looked even more like stone in the bright light. The council leader stood on a raised platform above the ring. It raised one of its 4 arms. "This demonstration will follow the rules of peaceful contest," the leader announced. "The fight ends when one party surrenders, falls unconscious, or is unable to continue. Killing is forbidden. If either party breaks these rules, they will face serious punishment from the council. Do both parties understand?" "I understand," Yuna said. Her voice was calm. Torak snorted. Yes. Let us begin already." The council leader looked at Yuna with what might have been concern. "Ambassador, are you certain you wish to continue? It is not too late to withdraw." Yuna shook her head. "I am certain. Very well." The leader raised its arm higher. "The demonstration will begin in 10 seconds. In the crowd, Day sat at the edge of his seat. His hands were pressed together so tightly that his knuckles were white. Around him, aliens whispered to each other. He heard many of them making jokes about how quickly the human would fall. Yuna stood still in the center of the ring. She was not stretching or moving. She just breathed slowly, in and out, her eyes closed. Torak laughed loudly. "What are you doing, human? Praying?" Yuna opened her eyes. "No, I am remembering." "Remembering what?" "Everything I have survived." The council leader dropped its arm. "Begin." Torak charged immediately. He was fast for his size, much faster than Yuna had expected. The ground shook with each of his steps. He crossed half the ring in less than 2 seconds, his arms spread wide to grab her. Yuna did not run. She waited. The crowd gasped. They thought she was frozen with fear. They thought she had given up. Even Day started to rise from his seat, ready to jump into the ring to save her. But at the last moment, Yuna moved. She stepped to the side. Just a small movement. Just enough. Torak's massive hands closed on empty air. His momentum carried him forward, and he stumbled past her. "Too slow." Una said quietly. Torak spun around, his face twisted with anger. Lucky, he growled. That will not happen again. He charged again. This time he was more careful. He did not try to grab her. Instead, he swung his huge fist in a wide arc, aiming at her head. Una ducked. The fist passed over her so close that she felt the wind from it. She moved under his arm and struck with her palm, hitting him in the ribs. The sound was like someone hitting a stone wall. Her hand stung from the impact. But Torak grunted. It was a small sound, almost too quiet to hear, but she had heard it. He felt that. She thought, good. Torak swung again and again and again. Each time, Una was not there. She moved like water, always flowing to the place where his attacks could not reach. She was not trying to hurt him. Not yet. She was studying him down in the stands. The mood was changing. The jokes had stopped. Aliens were leaning forward, watching with wide eyes. This was not what they had expected. The Solari delegate Mira turned to the alien next to her. She is not fighting him. She is dancing. No, the other alien said slowly. She is hunting. Torak stopped attacking. He was breathing hard now, his chest rising and falling. Sweat ran down his stone-like skin. He had thrown dozens of punches, and none of them had landed. Stand still, he roared. Fight me properly. Una stopped moving. She stood a few meters away from him, not even breathing hard. You want me to stand still? She said. All right. She planted her feet and raised her hands in front of her. The position looked strange, almost relaxed, but they recognized it immediately. It was a military combat stance, one used by special forces around the world. Torak smiled. Finally. He charged one more time. But this time was different. Una did not dodge. When he reached for her, she grabbed his arm. Her hands looked tiny against his massive limb, like a child grabbing a tree branch. But something happened that made the entire stadium gasp. She pulled. Using his own momentum, she pulled him forward and down. At the same time, she stepped to the side and pushed against his shoulder. The combination of forces was too much. Torak, the mighty Velen warrior, lost his balance. He fell. The sound when he hit the ground was like thunder. The ring shook. Cracks appeared in the white stone beneath him. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. It seemed like everyone had forgotten how to breathe. Una stood over Torak, looking down at him. She was not smiling. Her face was serious, almost sad. You asked how humans survive, she said. This is how. We do not fight with strength alone. We fight with our minds. We watch. We learn. We wait for the right moment. Torak pushed himself up onto his knees. His yellow eyes burned with fury. This proves nothing. You surprise me. That is all. I will not fall again. No, Una agreed. You will not fall again. She took a step back, giving him room to stand. But you will lose, she continued, because you still do not understand. You think this is about strength. It is not. On my planet, we have a saying. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Torak stood up slowly. He looked at her differently now. The contempt was gone from his eyes. It was replaced by something else. Confusion. And maybe, just maybe, a little fear. What are you? He asked. Una showed him her arms, the scars that covered her skin like writing from an ancient language. I am human, she said. My ancestors survived ice and fire. They walked across continents. They killed animals 10 times their size with sticks and stones. They did not survive because they were strong. They survived because they never stopped fighting. Never stopped thinking. Never stopped getting back up. She lowered her arms and looked directly into his eyes. You wanted to know why humans need no protection. Here is your answer. We are the descendants of those who refuse to die. Every single one of us carries that fire inside. And if you push us, if you threaten us, if you try to hurt us, she raised her fists again. We will show you exactly what kind of creatures we really are. Torak stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a new expression crossed his face. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was interest. Show me, he said. Show me everything. And the real fight began. The silence in the great hall lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like hours. Yuna could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She kept her eyes on Torak, watching the way his massive chest rose and fell with each breath. The Velen was angry. She could see it in the way his muscles tensed under his stone-like skin. Torak took a step forward. The floor shook slightly under his weight. He was even bigger than she had first thought. Up close, he looked like a mountain that had learned to walk. You offer to show me? Torak said. His voice was low and dangerous. Little human, do you know what you are saying? Yuna did not move. I know exactly what I am saying. The council leader stood up quickly. Delegates, please. This is not the time or place for such things. We are here to discuss alliance matters, not to fight. But this is an alliance matter, Torak said. He did not take his eyes off Yuna. The humans want to join us. They want to be equal partners. But how can we trust partners who cannot defend themselves? How can we send them into dangerous places? They will die, and we will be blamed. Several delegates made sounds of agreement. The Solari delegate Mira looked worried. She leaned forward in her seat. Perhaps Delegate Torak has a point, Myra said carefully. Not about fighting, but about demonstration. If the humans truly believe they can protect themselves, maybe they should show us how. The council leader frowned. What kind of demonstration? Torak smiled. His teeth were like rows of white knives. A simple test. The humans say she is strong. Let her prove it. Let her face me in the demonstration ring. The hall exploded with noise. Delegates shouted and argued. Some thought it was a good idea. Others said it was madness. A small human against a Velen warrior? It would be murder. Day grabbed Yuna's arm. No, he whispered urgently. You cannot do this. He will kill you. Yuna looked at her friend. His face was pale with fear. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. She felt a warmth in her chest. Day had always looked out for her. I have to, she whispered back. If I refuse, they will never respect us. They will always see humans as weak. There are other ways to earn respect. Not here. Not with these people. They understand only one thing. Day shook his head. Yuna, please. Think about this. I have thought about it. She gently removed his hand from her arm. Trust me. The council leader raised all four of its arms. Silence. Silence, please. The hall slowly grew quiet. The leader looked at Yuna with its large silver eyes. Ambassador Yuna, you do not have to accept this challenge. It is not required. If you refuse, there will be no shame. Yuna stepped forward. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. Thank you, council leader, but I do not refuse. I accept Delegate Torak's challenge. The noise started again, louder than before. Torak looked surprised for a moment. Then his smile grew wider. Brave little human, he said. Or maybe just stupid. We will find out soon. The council leader sighed. Very well. If both parties agree, the council will allow a demonstration. But there are rules. This will not be a fight to the death. It will end when one party surrenders or is unable to continue. Is this understood? Understood, Yuna said. Torak laughed. It does not matter. The result will be the same. The council called for a short break. Delegates would move to the demonstration ring, a large open area on the lower level of the station. It was usually used for cultural performances, but today it would host something very different. Day walked beside Yuna as they left the main hall. His face was tight with worry. "This is wrong," he said. "I should be the one fighting, not you." Yuna shook her head. "No, it has to be me. I am the ambassador. I made the claim. I must back it up. But you are not a soldier." Yuna stopped walking. She looked at Day with a strange expression, something between sadness and amusement. "Day, what do you know about my past?" "Before I became a diplomat?" Day frowned. "Not much. Your file said you studied languages and politics. It said you worked in the Foreign Service for 10 years. That is what the public file says. But there's another file, a classified one." Day stared at her. "What are you talking about?" Yuna started walking again. "I was not always a diplomat. Before that, I was something else. Something that is not written in any public record." "Yuna, what are you saying?" She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone remembering hard times. "I grew up poor," she said. "Very poor. My family had nothing. When I was 16, I joined a program. A special military program for young people with nothing to lose. They trained us to be weapons." Day's eyes went wide. "You were special forces?" "Something like that. For 12 years, I did things that most people cannot imagine. I went to places that do not exist on any map. I fought enemies that the public never knew about. But your file, my file was cleaned. When I left that life, I became a new person. The government gave me a new history. They put me in the diplomatic corps because I had learned many languages during my missions. They thought I would be useful." Day was silent for a long moment. He looked at Yuna as if seeing her for the first time. "Why are you telling me this now?" Yuna stopped at a door. Through the window, she could see the demonstration ring. It was a large circle of smooth white stone. Thousands of seats surrounded it, and they were already filling with delegates. "Because I want you to understand something," she said. She turned to face him. "I am not afraid of Torek. I have faced things much worse than him. I have been hurt in ways that would make him cry. And I am still here." She reached up and began to remove her formal jacket. Underneath, she wore a simple black shirt with short sleeves. Day saw something that made his breath catch. Her arms were covered in scars. Thin white lines crossed her skin like a map of pain. Some were small, like scratches. Others were long and deep, marks of serious wounds that had healed but never disappeared. "These are my medals," Yuna said quietly. "Each one is a time I should have died but did not. Each one is a reminder that I am still standing." She looked through the window at the ring, where Torek was already waiting. He was stretching his massive arms, showing off for the crowd. He looked confident. He looked like he had already won. Yuna rolled up her sleeves slowly, letting the scars show clearly. "Let me show you what a human can do," she said, and she walked through the door into the ring, ready to face the monster. The Great Hall of Station Vela was the largest room Yuna had ever seen. It stretched so far that she could not see the walls on the other side. Thousands of seats rose up like a mountain, and in each seat sat a being from a different world. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no faces at all. The air smelled strange, a mix of flowers and metal and something she could not name. Yuna stood at the center of the hall. She wore a simple black suit, the official uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her black hair was tied back in a neat bun. Her hands were folded in front of her. She looked calm, but her heart was beating fast. This was her first time speaking to the Galactic Council. Behind her stood Day, her assistant and friend. He was tall and quiet, with kind eyes and strong shoulders. He had served in the military before joining the diplomatic team. He watched the aliens with careful attention, ready to protect Yuna if anything went wrong. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, raised one hand. The room fell silent. "We welcome the representative of Earth," the leader said. Its voice was deep and echoed through the hall. "Ambassador Yuna, you may speak." Yuna bowed her head in respect. "Thank you, Council Leader. I am honored to stand before you today. Earth wishes to join the Galactic Alliance as a full member. We bring knowledge, resources, and friendship." A low murmur spread through the hall. Many aliens leaned forward in their seats. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had only discovered space travel 50 years ago. To the older species, they were like children who had just learned to walk. A large creature stood up from the middle rows. It was Torak, the delegate from the Velen Empire. He was 8 feet tall with thick gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were small and yellow, and his mouth was full of sharp teeth. The Velens were known as the strongest warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered many worlds before the Alliance made them stop. "I have a question," Turek said. His voice was rough like rocks grinding together. The council leader nodded. "Delegate Torak, you may speak." Torak pointed one thick finger at Yuna. "Why do the humans travel without protection?" "I have seen their ships. They have no armor. They have no weapon escorts. They send their people into space with nothing but thin metal walls between them and death." The hall buzzed with agreement. Other delegates nodded their heads and waved their tentacles. This was a question many had wanted to ask. Why Yuna kept her face calm. "We do not feel we need such things." Torak laughed. It was a harsh sound, like thunder. "Do not need them? Look at yourself, human. You are small. Your skin is soft. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. A child of my species could break you with one hand." Some aliens in the crowd laughed. Others looked at Yuna with pity. They took a step forward, his jaw tight with anger, but Yuna raised her hand slightly. He stopped. "I understand your concern," Yuna said. Her voice was steady. "But I promise you, humans are not as weak as we appear." Another delegate stood up. This one was from the Solari, a species of tall, thin beings with blue skin and large black eyes. They were known for their intelligence and their fear of conflict. "Delegate Torak makes a fair point," the Solari said. Her voice was soft and musical. "We have studied humans. Your bodies are fragile. You cannot survive in cold or heat. You need constant food and water. You sleep for 1/3 of your lives. How can such a species survive in the dangers of space?" Yuna turned to face the Solari. "May I ask your name?" "I am Delegate Myra," the Solari said. "Delegate Myra, you are correct. Our bodies have limits. But you have not studied everything about us." "Then tell us," Turek said loudly. "Tell us what makes humans so special that they need no protection." The hall grew quiet. Everyone was watching Yuna now. She could feel thousands of eyes on her, judging her, waiting for her to fail. She took a slow breath. "Humans are not special because of our bodies," she said. "We are special because of our minds, because of our will, because we never give up." Torak snorted. "Pretty words. But words do not stop bullets. Words do not win battles." "You would be surprised," Yuna said. The council leader raised a hand again. "Ambassador Yuna, perhaps you could explain more clearly. The council wishes to understand." Yuna nodded. She looked around the great hall, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as she could. "On Earth," she began, "we have a long history of survival. Our planet was not kind to us. We had ice ages that covered the world in snow. We had diseases that killed millions. We had earthquakes and floods and fires. And through all of it, we survived. Many species have survived hard things, Myra said. Yes, Yuna agreed. But humans did more than survive. We thrived. We spread to every corner of our planet. We lived in deserts where nothing grows. We lived on mountains where the air is thin. We lived in frozen lands where the sun disappears for months. And we did this without claws or armor or venom. Torak crossed his massive arms. And how did you do this? Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something in it that made some of the aliens shift in their seats. We used our minds, she said. We made tools. We made weapons. We made fire and shelter and medicine. And when those things were not enough, we used something else. What? Torak demanded. Yuna looked directly at him. Stubbornness. Humans are the most stubborn creatures in the universe. We do not know how to quit. We do not know how to give up. You can hurt us, and we will stand back up. You can knock us down 100 times, and we will rise 101. The hall was completely silent now. Even Torak had stopped smiling. They watched Yuna with pride in his eyes. He had seen her train. He had seen her push herself past every limit. He knew she was telling the truth. You ask why we need no protection, Yuna said. The answer is simple. We are human. We protect ourselves. We always have. We always will. She looked at Torak one more time. And if you do not believe me, I will be happy to show you. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Torak's yellow eyes narrowed. His hands curled into fists. Around the hall, delegates whispered to each other in 100 different languages. The council leader looked between Yuna and Torak. Something was about to happen. Everyone could feel it, and Yuna stood in the center of it all, small and soft and human, waiting without fear.